by the Ruderman Family Foundation, which promotes authentic representation in the entertainment industry and full inclusion of people with disabilities throughout all sections of society. And now, please welcome Academy Governors Kate Amend, Jean Chen, and Roger Ross Williams.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. This is always a very special night because we're honoring and celebrating documentaries. But this year it's even more special because this is the 20th anniversary of the creation of our very own documentary branch in the Academy. And do we have any of our original founders or governors here? Oh, stand up, please. Frida. Frida. Anybody else? Thank you. We're all so grateful. Well, I want to congratulate all our nominees. You've all made beautiful, powerful films, and we all take pride in the work that you've created. And we're so happy to honor you. We'd like to thank tonight our ASL interpreters, Jordan Lopez and Andrea Lust, for joining us tonight. We'll also have open captions for tonight's clips in order to make the show more accessible. Now I'd like to introduce my dear friend and fellow governor, Roger Ross Williams.
Thank you, Kate. So it's great to be here. So for years, I stood up here and I urged the documentary branch to sponsor women, BIPOC filmmakers, people of color. And, you know, all of our hard work has paid off because I'm happy to announce that we are the most diverse branch in the Academy. Let's give your... We've grown to just over 600 members, and I'm proud of each and every one of you. Over the last few years, we've gone from majority male to majority female. 1/3 of our branch is international. We've increased our BIPOC membership immensely, so we should all just give ourselves a great round of applause for the hard work we've done. We're proud of our accomplishments, but our efforts aren't over. Our goals with the Academy Aperture 2025 initiative are to further the dialogue and challenge our history to create a more equitable and inclusive community. We will focus on the younger generation, like the Academy Gold program, which gives opportunities to college students from underrepresented backgrounds. We have our Academy Women's Initiative and our Academy International Inclusion Initiative. So there's still a lot of work to be done. In the documentary branch, we're facing issues with pipeline for people of color. So please, if you can, sponsor and get an intern of a BIPOC filmmaker as an intern in your company and really sort of, you know, help us to create new filmmakers that don't always look like, you know, like that looks more like America. I thought I wouldn't be standing here as your elected leader. I never thought people like me could have a place at the table, but I was wrong because people like me belong here. Asian, Black, Latino, queer, trans, we belong here representing the Academy. I want to introduce to you our newest governor, Jean Chen. Jean and I have known each other for years. She's a very special member of our branch. Jean immigrated to the US 50 years ago, and eventually she made a name for herself as an editor of acclaimed documentarians like Barbara Koppel, Orlando Bagwell, and our own nominee, Stanley Nelson. I've had the pleasure of working with Jean, and she's not only a brilliant storyteller, but she brings such joy to the edit room and to every project she works on. You know, Jean hasn't rested on those laurels. She has spent most of her career mentoring filmmakers, and she was a mentor to me. So please join me in welcoming Jean Shen.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank first Kate and Roger for your guidance and your year's commitment to the documentary branch throughout the years, really. I also want to thank an unsung hero. I don't know if he's here, Tom Oyer. If you're in the room, please stand up. Who works tirelessly in holding us together. This is the 20th anniversary of the documentary branch, and I want to give my gratitude to all the previous governors before me. In keeping up with our mission in connecting the world through cinema, I'm very proud to be part of this great community. Yes, 50 years ago this month, I immigrated to this country as an 11-year-old from Taiwan. And I never imagined that one day I would be standing here in this temple of cinema as a freshman governor to welcome each one of you. In 1983, I watched my very first documentary, and it was a 14-minute short called Sewing Woman by Arthur Dong. The film went on to be nominated for the 1984 Academy Award. And it made a great impact on me. It is a testament to the power of documentary that it does change lives. I'm sure the films that we're celebrating here tonight will definitely change someone's life out there. And for that, I congratulate and thank each one of your nominees for sharing your beautiful and important work to the world. And with that, we are going to open tonight's program with the documentary shorts. Thank you. Yeah.
Please welcome the nominees for Audible, Matt Ogens and Jeff McLean.
Serve Audible.
Matt Ogens, director. Didn't prepare a lot, so I'll riff a bit. Audible's a coming-of-age story following a deaf high school senior named Amari and his friends and his family as he grapples with the pressures of senior year and really about to venture off into the hearing world. In many ways, it's unique to Amari and the deaf community, but it's also relatable to all of us. He and anyone who's deaf isn't just defined by the word deaf. They have relationships and family and tragedy and sadness and joy. And the film's about many things, representation and inclusion, but underneath it's about belonging. For me, it was 12 years of trying to get the film made, a lot of no's. People didn't think there was an audience for this. They'd say it. So I just kept going. I felt there was and spent 12 years. The coach in my film when I first started was supposed to be my main character and was on the football team. That's how long it took. And I grew up about 30 minutes away, and I think my deepest connection is my best friend is deaf since I was about 7. So in a way, for me, it was a way to connect and understand him more. And then I met Jeff, my producer and fellow nominee, and maybe there's no coincidences, his best friend growing up in Toronto is deaf. And so just all these things lined up. And so, yeah, I think we all want to be in a world where we understand each other's stories. I'm grateful to be in this room with all of you storytellers, building those connections, and you all have been my teachers. Yeah.
Yeah, like Matt said, the deaf community has been extremely welcoming to the two of us since we were young, and when we were shooting this film, the MSD community was extremely welcoming and let us get as involved as we wanted to, and it's just been an honor to be a part of telling their story with this film.
And just to set up this clip, rather than making like an observational film where we were on the outside looking in, we spent a lot of time way before we filmed trying to make like an immersive audio-visual experience that felt like it was Amari who made the film, and we were just conduits to create a safe space for them to tell their story. So hopefully you see that in this clip. Thank you.
Please welcome the nominees for Lead Me Home, Pedro Koss and John Shank.
Wow, that was beautiful. Hello, good evening. We are feeling so fortunate to be here, so grateful to be here in the company of so much amazing talent. Lead Me Home started in 2017. My wife and filmmaking partner and producer of this film, Bonnie Cohen, turned to Pedro and me one day and said, you know, there's a giant crisis of humanity going on in our city of San Francisco and in Los Angeles and in Seattle and Portland, up and down the West Coast. And we started talking about it, and the immediate thought that came into, I think, all of our head is that there's this kind of tension that exists, I think, among all of us who live in these cities in America right now, which is that we are constantly overwhelmed by the fact that hundreds of thousands of us are falling out of the modern economy that we have in this country, whether it's due to rent going up, or a medical bill that's unexpected, or a job that's lost. And I think many of us who are sensitive feeling people naturally feel that and have compassion for our neighbors. And yet the other side of it is that we all go about our business every day, going to work, school, restaurants, cafes, meetings, kind of busy, and we have to turn off that part of our brain to ignore that giant crisis that's going on all around us. So that's where it started, to sort of, in a way, kind of do a 180 of that way of thinking, and to try to look at this in the face. And that's when Pedro and I started working together, and it was such a joy. And turn it over to Pedro to tell you a little bit about some of the creative thoughts we had about getting that done.
And it was, first of all, it was a magical, transformative process for not only John and I, but for the entire team, especially Sarah and Marshall, who's here, our other amazing producer. And we wanted to capture not only the scale, but sort of the shift perspective, and look at our own cities, our own lives, from a perspective that we've been marginalizing and making invisible for too long, and really anchoring in the extraordinary people, our neighbors, who are experiencing homelessness. And we set out, we met with a lot of organizations, city officials, and we began to meet people. And we actually say that the people that you get to meet in the film chose to share their stories, their lives. And the clip that you're about to see tonight is a little section of the film where the film is an experiential experience to basically to show that there's so much more that unites us than separates us. And this evening time montage that we like to call is you will get to meet and see the beautiful artistry of Ronnie Futuristic Willis, who's here tonight. Ronnie, stand up. There's Ronnie. And you get to see that we all have, there's so much that unites us. We're incredible artists. We gather with our families. We dream and we love. And this is a little moment from that film. Thank you.
Where do you usually sleep?
They have a dorm on the second floor, and it's like 160 ladies, because it's bunk beds.
How often do you say you sleep outside?
I did 4 nights, and that was 2 years ago.
Do you know where to go for showers and laundry?
Had to go to hotels to take showers. When the maids left the room, and kept going like that for a while. I'm sorry.
Do you ever feel scared or unsafe?
Like I've been molested, I've been stabbed, I've been shot, I've been ran over. Like I've been through a lot of stuff.
How many times have you been attacked or beaten up since you've become homeless?
Recently, it's been day 4 by
Okay.
Please welcome the nominee for the Queen of Basketball, Ben Proudfoot.
That was beautiful, John and Pedro. Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? Good? Thanks for coming out to support documentaries. It's an absolute honor to be here and have the opportunity to speak to you all this evening in this hallowed place with such incredibly esteemed colleagues Thank you to the Academy, the documentary branch governors for having us. I just want to acknowledge the members, some members of our team that made the film with me. They've joined here tonight as well. Thank you for coming. Thank you for all you did. Yes, please give them a round of applause. All of our films, our teams are here. My mom is here somewhere. So I'm Ben, and our film, The Queen of Basketball, chronicles the incredible life story of the late Ms. Lucy Harris, a towering pioneer in the game of basketball who was denied the opportunity and exposure her male counterparts received because of her gender and the color of her skin. You'll get to meet her and hear a bit of her story in a moment. I could speak at length about Ms. Harris and her unbelievable legacy, but she can speak very well for herself. And so I invite you instead to watch the entire film when you get a chance. It's 22 minutes, and it's on YouTube for free. And instead today, as a very grateful guest in the Academy's house, Cinema's house, I'd like to take this chance to celebrate the short documentary. People assume that short documentarians are feature documentarians without the budget. Not for me. The short documentary is actually my art form of choice, and I'm very proud of it. I've been lucky enough to have been nominated in this category 2 years in a row now, and after spending a decade building a short documentary company, the truth is the short documentary has very few advocates. It's nearly impossible to make money making short documentaries, and so it's always seen as a calling card category for filmmakers, a stepping stone art form on the way to making real movies. Well, I think that's selling the format short. A short documentary is a real movie. I think these 5 films are real movies, great movies. In fact, I believe the short documentary is actually the most exciting corner of cinema, and I think it's the future of cinema, and I'll tell you why. We all accept that the more of a meritocracy our industry is, the more it will thrive. But the biggest obstacle to opportunities for filmmakers is how incredibly expensive it is to make and distribute a film. And we must grapple with the influence that money has on the documentary. We should not accept, as artists and activists, that cinema is to be used simply to accumulate app subscribers and bolster share prices. Cinema, especially documentary cinema, is a business, yes, that we all participate in, but it should be about documenting our common human experience. It should be about expanding human imagination. It should be about giving voice where there has been silence, about filling in the elisions in history and offering unimaginable visions for the future. It's about using stories to expand the human heart and mind and set the spirit free. And we need that force from everywhere and everyone in today's world. The best kept secret in cinema is that the short documentary is the most timely and democratic form of cinema. It has the lowest barrier of entry to finance and make. It has the lowest barrier of entry to watch. You know, our film is 20 minutes long. It's available for free. Short documentary is where you will find the highest ratio of investment to impact and audience size. A $50,000 short documentary can have as big of an audience and as big of an impact on the public consciousness as a $100 million feature film. And important stories with little commercial promise actually can get made as short docs. Frankly, if The Queen of Basketball was a feature film, I'd probably be still raising the money. And Ms. Harris would be gone, and her story with her. It is the most democratic form of cinema. And I believe that's why the short documentary will become the most diverse, the youngest, and the most international form of cinema. It will also become the most widely watched form of cinema. That's already happening. Because great stories find a way. Storytellers with great stories find a way, as you've seen and will see. And the internet and our phones will take care of the rest. The Mona Lisa is about yay big. One frame. And I look forward to the day when this category is chock full of Mona Lisas from every corner of the planet. I love making and watching feature documentaries, and I have utmost respect for that form as well. The people in this room have beckoned in a golden age for documentary and even changed our idea of what a documentary can be. But our form, the short documentary, desperately needs advocating too. And I'm here to assert that there's nothing small or less about short. I learned that from my mother, 5'3½", there she is, wonderful lady. So I stand proud as a short documentarian among these consummate and elegant films and filmmakers. And I'm grateful to the Academy for being the world's greatest champion of the form. I believe it is a most wise investment. And now I'm proud to present a clip from our short documentary, The Queen of Basketball. Long live the Queen. Thank you.
Their main weapon is number 45, Lucia Harris. Always a dominating inside force. Her scoring and rebounding is a must if Delta is to claim its second straight national title.
Nobody expected us to win back-to-back championships.
An intense rivalry is built up between Delta and Immaculata. And tonight's game has national supremacy on the line.
So we won.
Championship trophy to Margaret Wade and her Delta State Lady Statesman.
This year's tournament has been an outstanding success.
Cleveland, a peaceful community in the heart of the Mississippi Delta. A town of friendly people, rich agriculture, and the Lady Statesman basketball team of Delta State University. Twice national champs after only 4 years of existence as a team.
And I look up to Lucy because she's like the greatest woman player that's ever been. And to me, you know, that's something really great.
I think she's special because she can do about anything. She drives, she rebounds, she jumps, she blocks shots. She's tough.
Lucy, well, she's hard to describe, really. She's like one in a million. I don't think there'll ever be another ball player like her. And to have the personality that she has and be as humble as she is, it's really incredible. It's hard to explain.
Well, attention, you know, to me is saying that a lot of people are interested in what we're doing, you know, and they're keeping up with it, and I think that's good.
Montreal. That was the very first time that women's basketball was placed in the Olympics. It was just unreal. We played Japan, the very first game. They shot the first basket, but they missed. Came back down the court. Ann Myers passed me the ball. I shot it and made it.
That was the first basket in the history of Olympic women's basketball.
And Ann Myers said, that's history. I said, oh yeah? Maybe that is history. Now that's a record that'll never be broken.
Lucia Harris.
We won the silver medal. I wanted my parents to be proud of me, and they were. make you feel special.
The center for Delta State, a 6'3" senior from Minter City, Mississippi, co-captain number 45, Lucy Harris.
Delta State has won its third consecutive AIAW National Basketball Championship.
I really have enjoyed myself, playing on the last intercollegiate basketball team that I will play on. And we really appreciate what all of you have done. Thank you.
I wanted to keep playing, but there was no place to go. There was no WNBA when I came along. Didn't exist.
Please welcome the nominees for 3 songs for Benazir, Elizabeth Mirzai and Gulistan Mirzai.
Hello everyone, I'm Gulistan Mirzai. I'm the director and producer. I'm from Afghanistan. It's really amazing to be standing here at the first time direct from Afghanistan. Every nominate for an Oscar. This is a historical moment and all that means. As I look at all of you tonight, it gives me great hope that a small story about my country and my people could be a bridge on which I am standing right now. Communicate with all of you, both in person and through the first film, and thank you for having me.
It is really such an honor for both of us to be here. As Gulastan's wife and also the co-director of this film, what Gulistan said reminds me of a realization that dawned on me during the making of 3 Songs for Benazir. It reminded me of a moment that we were inside the camp in Kabul, a camp for people displaced by the war, and we were in Shaista and Benazir's house, and there was a military helicopter whirring overhead. It was really the only sign of the world outside and the war. And Shaista just broke out into this love song for Benazir. And it was funny, it was sweet, it was tender. I was trying not to laugh and the camera was shaking. And in that moment, something shifted and we realized that this really isn't a film about a young man being recruited into the Afghan National Army. It's about a young couple who are in love, and it's about the promise to stand by your partner no matter what happens in life. I'm from right outside Philadelphia. I moved to Afghanistan. I learned the language. Gulis and I began making films together. I fell in love with the country and immersed myself in it for over 8 years. And in that time, we worked together and we looked at war and all the costs of war, the costs that both can and cannot be calculated, the costs that are both visible and invisible, at poverty, at the concept of the enemy and how that idea changes and shifts. But what we didn't expect, and what I'm so grateful for as we got deeper into the lives of Shaista and Benazir, is that we'd be making a film as much about ourselves as it was about the supposed other. You know, we were falling in love as they were falling in love. We got married as they got married. We were building a family as they were building a family. And I'm convinced that the best films that resonate with us, and the bar that we aspire to, is the one that binds us all on some of the universals, no matter the particulars. Thank you all.
سالکیگو
سواد داری؟
سواد درسیم با پریم درس ولی بیام درس کنه ولی ولارم المنت بیاچی دلمن سرانم واسه بیار توانم چی درس وام برد درسیم با مولد
خکار دکره کار دکره دگه فرمیت ویسا
سلام پکلی سلام
یا باسواد سلای پیدایی که ملک دیکله یا ورور دی دگه طول بیوگرافی فرماله دگه اولی که تو سو که دی کم زای پس به چه کار دیکره تا وسا پوره درست است افغان هستی با کدام گروه دوست داری چی کاره هستی دیجا خود آری میبینی که کشورمان به یک بحران مواجه است که دیجا طالب است و پاکستانی است و دیگه است ما بینی مشکلات روبرو هستیم ما از این خاطر تو را از تو تضمین میخواهیم و هر زمانی که خدا اینا خواسته از دستی تو کدام جرم جنایتی که سر میزنه تو از اردو فرار میکنی اونمو تضمین کننده است که تو را پس دوباره برای ما میسپاره این تضمین دیگر روزی که آوردی بخیر باز ما پروسه کارت تکمیل میکنیم روانت میکنیم بعد تبریک باشه خوش شدیم از اینکه با اون شامل میشه
بس کری که در یاد لیدی مثال آوا واه بشاکه دا دوانه خبر نسته شاله روزانه صاحب هم کار جوړ موږ به هم کار جوړ موږ کولای شو په عمر به فشار دي تراسه که بیا ما ونه کی په ژوند به تاسو ما به خبره کنه کېږه ما چې دا د سکار
کار چې دا وروره که دا کوچنی کار نه دی دا غټ کار دی
هر څونه غټ چیز ګوره په دې شپږو میاشتو ګوره ته خبرې ته
دا کور د دا ځای د دا معاینه د اوس معاینه نه درلوده کور یې نه وای در ما اجازه ورکول چې زه خپل عسکري کوي هر رقم چې کوي وته چې امریکا ته به تلای ما اجازه ورکول
اوس هغه خبرې نسته لاله چې موږ وروره جانه یو خپل خواري غریبي کوو کسان مختار کوو که لاله په ژوند کې کدی په ما کې اوس ثبوت پیدا کړي چې مثال دغه دی ښایسته یا وتښته دی یا یو سړی خوښ کړي یا یو سړی دغه کوي چې چار څه مو کول دلته
هغه کار خو نه کوي زموږ وایي چې خپل خواري کوي
ښه د مرګه بیریږي
د څه نه بیریږي دا کار چې د وروره که دا کار خوار و غریب نشي کولی
ولې نشي کولی دا خوار و غریب نه دلته ولاړ
ولري یو پایا ولري شاته بیا کوای سي
برو که گسری که زبینی خوب کردن نیست که بینی خوره بکنه او ماشین دکه او تشاس دو وطن خو خدمت میکنه مازوری کم هستم دستم کم است پایم کم است چی دو وطن خو خدمت کردن نمیتونم
هیچ مشکلی نیست
داش ما که ورور قربان دي سم خپل فلارس اصلاح کوي نه خپل روس اصلاح کوي یا دا سلاګر نه لري دا د شکار
سیاست اصلاح نه کوي دا کارته کوي و زه وای اول زه خپل چې مثال اول سړی ما چې مثال زه په د ملي اردو کې درېږم په دا ګرد کیم کې بل څوک نشته مثال چې په د ملي اردو کې ودرېږي
مسؤلیت موږ نه لرو زه اجازه نه درکوم وروره چې دا کار وکړي موږ رضایت نشته شریک اورې
طالبان موږ کسان په بلاش په بندو کلام پرې کوي
کما غلط
جان موږ د بل شي کوای شو
دا کار باید ونه کوم څه
Please welcome the nominee for When We Were Bullies, Jay Rosenblatt.
Hi, everybody. Well, it's quite an honor to be here tonight, and a real honor to be with my fellow nominees who all have made very beautiful films. Ben, I think I could be the poster child for your film movement of short docs, since that's all I've been doing for 30 years. And thank you. And you touched upon this, but what I'd like to just add is don't give up your day job. So my film is, I want to talk about coincidence for a few minutes. Albert Einstein said, "Coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous." And I feel like that's what happened with this film. That was the root of this film. It starts with a mind-boggling coincidence. I'm not going to go through it all because it's in the film. Hopefully you've seen it or will see it. And it's quite involved, but it's like lottery odds. But when I was telling this story to a friend 6 years ago, and this was my favorite story, I would tell this at film festivals, or if I did like a master class, I would tell this story, this coincidence. I told it to a friend about 6 years ago, and she said, "You know, you should make a film about that." And I thought, yeah, maybe I should. So I decided to search for my classmates from 5th grade to see what they remembered from a bullying incident over 50 years ago. But I didn't know how I would tell this story because I did not want to rely on talking heads. And I'm kind of more of a B-roll guy. So I knew I would use some found footage because I kind of make collage films and that's what I've done. But I wanted to do something different. And I thought, maybe I'll work with an animator. Maybe I'll do some animation. So there was one person I knew, and he's here tonight. And he was my daughter's, and my daughter is here tonight too. He was my daughter's after-school teacher. And then he gave her guitar lessons. And after one lesson, somehow it came out that he did short animations. And I asked if I could see some of them, and he gave me links. And they're really beautiful short films that he writes the music for and sings. His name is Jeremy Rourke. And I'm telling you this because if my daughter didn't take guitar lessons from him, I honestly don't think I'd be standing here right now because his animation is so wonderful and such an integral part of my film that I think that's a big part of why I'm here. So when we began working together, and we worked together probably 2.5 to 3 years, back and forth, he did analog animation, which is frame by frame, not computer animation. It's very time consuming. He goes into a zone, and sometimes he'd go into that zone for a few months before I get some images to play with. And we went back and forth. And we came to one decision together. He has different styles of animation, but particularly I like this cutout animation. And I think the kind of inspiration for this was I was looking at the class photo and I thought, you know what? We should just use this photo and think of every permutation we could possibly think of. A lot of times when you create these kind of limits, more creativity comes out. If you can do a film about anything without any limits, it's very difficult. So these cutouts really fit my aesthetic. this collage aesthetic. And the elements, aside from the animation, are some interviews, mainly phone interviews, some found footage, like I said. There's some live action. The biggest challenge was getting the right tone in this film, which was both serious and playful, with a bit of a detective story feel. And I think in the clip you're going to see, you'll see all those elements play off of each other. And the last thing I want to say is my film's about 10-year-olds being bullies and or being complicit. But as we're well aware, we have one wreaking havoc in the world right now, one big bully. And we had one for 4 horrible years here. So, unfortunately, my film is very timely. I hope you enjoyed the clip. Thank you. Participated. Oh yeah, one last thing. We got caught. Richard remembered details I had completely forgotten, or maybe I just blocked. Like how Mrs. Bromberg would insist that we were totally silent and sit at attention with our hands clasped before she would let us go home. But on this particular day, it was different.
Mrs. Bromberg ran a tight ship, and she wasn't going to put up with nonsense. So when she says, no one is leaving, I want it absolutely silent, and I will decide when you leave. And we all just kind of go, And it's taking a long time. Usually that's about a minute. As a teacher myself, I know, you want to make a minute, and then you go. It's going on and on and on. And finally she says, you can go. You would have left earlier, but Richard was talking. I was outraged. I wasn't talking. And then I realized people thought it was me, and I was going to get shit for it. I didn't want people being mad at me. So we pack up our stuff, and it occurs to me that it must have been the other Richard in the class, who we called Dick. That was his name that he was assigned in 4th grade when there were 4 Richards in the same class in Mrs. Weedman's class. There was Richard, I was Richie, there was a Rich, and then this other guy got Dick. And in the hierarchy of 4th and 5th grade, that's not a good thing. Yeah. So as we're packing up our stuff, I passed along to Michael Sorrell, who was right in front of me. I said, it was Dick. Get Dick. Pass it down. And it started getting passed down all the way down the line as we were walking down. And everybody heard it. And as we get out of the building, he must have heard it as well, because he starts running. But we all, as a mass, kept on running down the stairs and surrounded him and jumped on him. I jumped on him, and Michael Sorrell jumped on him. That's what I remember the most. Girls were jumping on him. It was like out of control, but we were all angry at him.
Now let's pick up where we left off, at the lock gate of PS 194. God, I don't like this, Richard. I don't know where to put my foot.
If you can get that foot down, and then just your other foot over, then if you can move your hands to the fence at some point. Don't come down fast. It's almost as if you can almost see the spot. Just feels like it was right here. There's something right here. And this is where we surrounded him, and some kids spit on him. Everybody's taunting him with whatever everybody wanted to do, it seemed. It seemed like everybody had free will to do whatever it felt like he deserved. And this is where I remember, at this point, being a bit of an instigator. And I remember being on my knees, somehow. And then seeing, looking back, we're here, so perhaps I was punching him, perhaps just spitting on him, just perhaps yelling. I don't remember the specifics of what I did, but I do know Michael Sorrell, another student, was next to me, because everybody stops and we look up and we see coming down the stairs Mrs. Bromberg and Dr. Pincus, the principal. Everybody gets up as one and starts running and running.
Then I remember the next day coming in, and Mrs. Bromberg sent Dick out for an errand and then just turned to the class and just said, "You are animals," and really gave us a going to, yeah. So it's just, so you know, from my perspective, it was like I was trying to keep me from getting the wrath of the class and pinned it on him.
This experience had clearly affected us both, and the more I delve into it, the more upset I am that I was involved. And, as I was soon to learn, we were not alone in this memory.
Please welcome back to the stage, Kate Amend.
Wow, those are really inspiring. So now we're going to meet the filmmakers who were nominated for Best Documentary Feature. But first, I would like to share some thoughts from a beloved documentary filmmaker that we lost this week, Marina Goldovskaya. This is from her book, Woman with a Movie Camera. Work on a movie gives rise to so many unexpected events and turns, all kinds of circumstances demanding enormous spiritual energy. It is simultaneously so exhausting and so attractive that I don't know of anything else that brings such joy. I have become addicted. It's a strange profession. I never know where it will lead me. I have to be prepared for the most unexpected changes and not get lost, not be afraid, and not give up. So now let's meet some filmmakers who were not afraid, did not get lost, and did not give up. Thank you.
Please welcome the nominees for Ascension, Jessica Kingdon, Kira Simon Kennedy, and Nathan Truesdell.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Kingdon, the director of Ascension.
I'm Kira Simon Kennedy, the producer of Ascension.
And I'm Nate Truesdell, the producer of Ascension, also.
Thanks to the Academy for hosting us and having this awesome event. It's really fun to be able to see the clips and talk about different stories related to them. So yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to do that. And it's just a huge honor to be part of this documentary community that's clearly thriving, and I just feel lucky to be part of it. So Ascension is an observational film that is loosely about the Chinese dream in vignettes. It's a study of upward mobility through the industrial supply chain that is about China as much as it is about America. I'm going to talk about the backstory of the clip that you're going to see up here. One of the locations that I wanted to shoot at was at a Trump hat factory. This was 2018, right at the beginning of his re-election campaign. My co-producer, Maggie Lee, who's in the audience here, she can stand up if she wants. Maggie cold called several factories for me to try to get us into a MAGA hat factory. And one of them let us in, set in Iwu. Iwu is a major city of manufacturing and shipping. The owner, named Hunter, was initially reluctant, skeptical of us, believing us to be scammers. This was quite common. Factory owners often suspected us of trying to get some sort of cash out of them for appearing in our film. But Hunter decided to take a chance on us anyway. And as soon as we showed up, he warmed up to us and realized that we weren't trying to get money from him, but he had some bad news for us. His factory was fresh out of MAGA hats due to a large order that had just been placed from all places from Canada. However, he said that they were making Trump scarves. And so I said, sure, I'll film that. So as I'm shooting the scarf, the embroidery, I see the slogan start to emerge. And it says, "Keep America Great," instead of what I was anticipating, "Make America Great Again." I thought that it was some kind of error, a mistranslation perhaps. But they told me, no, that is Trump's re-election campaign slogan, and that was where I first encountered it. It's said that business people in Iwu are ahead of the curve when it comes to global trends, even predicting election outcomes. Because they're the wholesale distributors of the world, the so-called commodity city of the world, they tend to know things before the public does. People in Iwu were predicting, while we were there, people in Iwu were predicting Trump would be our new president, and luckily this time they were wrong. So Maggie, you can applause for that. Maggie befriended the factory owner, Hunter. They're still in close touch to this day, and they're going into business together now, manufacturing these colorful condom bags that you may have seen her wear. It should be no surprise to all of you that Hunter is no Trump supporter. This sequence was meant to feel like a collage of factories that's meant to be a journey through production processes where one factory blends into the next. The sequence ends in a sex doll factory that produces AI dolls, a large portion of which end up here in the States. This part never made it into the film, but I wanted to tell you this story because it's just too good not to tell. We actually interviewed one of the dolls when we found out that they could have conversations. It was Nate's idea to interview. I wouldn't have thought about that. The manager told us, I'm sorry, that wasn't supposed to be any, I was trying to give him credit, not. Okay, so the manager told us the dolls were bilingual in both English and Mandarin. So we conducted an interview in both. However, during the English conversation, the doll kept steering us back to the topic of what life is like in the North Pole, and whether or not we had completed some sort of list. We asked the engineer about why the English persona was so limited in comparison to the Mandarin persona. They were puzzled. The people at this factory spoke little English, so they weren't aware that they had actually purchased a database that had the personality of a Santa Claus. I sometimes like to imagine the shock of a customer as he tries to converse with his doll. Every location that we went to had a kind of backstory like this. I've heard the phrase kind of like shadow film that happens behind an actual film that you see on screen. So every location had something like this, and we just had so much fun doing it. Being able to make this film was the adventure and privilege of my lifetime, and I'm so thankful to everyone who helped me craft this vision of China. My producers, Nate and Kira, obviously, who were here from the very beginning, and without their support, I never would have been able to go through with it, even when it was so hard to articulate and it seemed so improbable. People in the audience, my associate producer, Ann Xiaomina, and our executive producers at XTR, and of course, Maggie. This vision of the US and China, where the two are inextricably linked, as you'll see in these clips above. Thank you.
哎，这件不要了，傻哎，颜色都不同。视频呢？他说我叫你返工，他是听到了，带到美国去了，叫你欧阳华地返工。只要搞到了口体就可以了。快点啊！啰嗦废话。 帮你卖掉。
Please welcome the nominees for Attica, Stanley Nelson and Tracy A. Curry.
Hey, thank you. It's so great to be here. First, I just want to say, you know, we're sitting over here, right, in this place, and doesn't it look like this statue is a black man with a short afro? Like, right? Thank you, Doc Branch. I think that in starting on Attica, I kind of knew how it ended. But that's the only thing I knew. I knew how the story ended. And I really wanted to try to figure out how it got there and how it ended like that. And that's really what I think started us down the road of making this film. I was thinking about how, you know, as filmmakers, we also have been on this journey, and it's ended up here. And you know, we all know how it ends so far. You know, that we're nominated for an Academy Award, which is incredible and fantastic. And so we kind of know how the story ends, and it in some way is similar to our journey with Attica. One of the things that we knew from the beginning was that there was some footage of the rebellion and what happened in the prison. We had no idea that there was the amount of footage that we ended up finding. And kind of miraculously we found, for some reason, the prison guards at the prison had one of the first iterations of home video. And so they were filming from the very beginning as the riot actually broke out. And up in the tower, they were filming in black and white for the whole 5 days. And then the prisoners, when they took over the prison of Attica, they immediately invited the press in because they thought if the press came in and filmed and made it transparent, that they would then in some way have some kind of protection. So there was just an incredible amount of footage, and then we started to find these great people to talk about what had happened in the event. Tracy, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I was going to say something else, but yeah.
Okay. Say whatever you want.
Sorry, I didn't know that I was going to be speaking tonight, so I did not prepare anything. I was talking to someone earlier this evening about all of the amazing films that we are so honored to share this category with. And as different as they all are, what has occurred to me in watching all of them is that there's this thread that runs throughout all of these films in which the films demand that you recognize the humanity and the personhood of people that we often don't see and don't hear, and who it's easy to overlook. And I think that the ability that this medium allows to do that is really what compels us as filmmakers to do this work. When we started out with Attica, it occurred to me that it would be a tall order for us in that regard, because in some ways prisoners are the people that it's easiest for us to dismiss, to dehumanize, to not hear, to not see. And so I was a little concerned about whether or not audiences would really be able to connect to these people. And I'm so grateful that we are standing here as a testament to the fact that viewers did do that for this film. So the clip that I believe you're about to see this evening is one that does insist upon that recognition from the audience in ways that are brutal, that are maddening, infuriating, but in a way that I think that you can't forget and that doesn't let you go.
So just to set up the, the clip a little more, after the prisoners took over the prison of Attica, they held it for 5 days. After 5 days, the law enforcement was threatening to come in. And this is kind of the culmination of the rebellion as law enforcement comes to take back the prison with just incredible force. So this is, I think, the beginning of the last day of the 5-day Attica rebellion.
suffocating violence. We all want to live. All of us. If any of you gentlemen own dogs, you're treating them better than we have been treated in the last year.
They were fiercely trying to convince prison authorities that they didn't cease being a human being merely by the fact that they were incarcerated because they had broken a law of society. And that's a profound thing. I am somebody. I'm not a thing. You can't treat me like a dog. I may be a prisoner, but I have dignity. And that's what they insisted on getting the power structure of Attica to recognize, that they continued to be somebody.
The observers, they all were listening to us. I feel that they were supporting us, you see, and that meant a lot to us. This is our situation. Please listen to us. And that's what they were doing. They were listening.
It felt like there was somebody that believed in us. It felt that way. If somebody believed that, you know, you did have some rights, even though you were a convicted felon or whatever.
Would we be able to get better mailing privileges, better medical privileges? We tried to nail it down to that which was realistic and possible. I was distinguished from a plane waiting for us outside the cell block, flying us to Cuba. That's what it was. It was realism from fantasy.
We want to be treated as human beings. We will be treated as human beings. We have come to the conclusion, after close study, after much suffering, after much consideration, that if we cannot live as people, then we will at least try to die like men.
That statement resounded everywhere. In that yard, when he said that, a roar went up like no other. This was their stand.
I saw that none of us were going to be observers. We were going to be mediators. Whether we wanted to be mediators or not, whether we were called up to be mediators, this prison uprising had to be mediated. Otherwise, it was going to end in disaster.
If you people do not understand, if you people do not stick with us, if you people cannot make the commitment that we have made here, we are dead. I appeal, beseech you all to stand with us. Walk with us. Die with us if necessary. You are the people. Power to you and all the people.
Please welcome three of the nominees for Flea: Jonas Boyer Rasmussen, Monica Hellstrom, Sine Bayra Sorensen.
My name is Jonas Boyer Rasmussen, and I'm the director of Flea, and it's really wonderful to be here all the way from Copenhagen, Denmark. Do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah. So I'm one of the producers. My name is Monica Hellstrom.
And I'm one of the other producers, Sine Bayra Sorensen.
And then we have our third producer. She's not here today. She's Charlotte de la Courneret, the animation producer.
So Flea is an animated documentary about a very dear friend of mine. This guy who showed up in my sleepy Danish hometown when I was 15, 25 years ago. And he came all by himself from Afghanistan and stayed in foster care with a family just around the corner from where I lived. And we started meeting up at the bus stop every morning, going to high school, and slowly became very good friends. And I was, of course, already back then curious about how and why he had come, but he didn't want to talk about it. And I, of course, respected that. And, you know, being a 15-year-old boy, you're like, okay, sure, let's just hang out. And so we did. But this story of his past kind of became this black box in our friendship, and also within him, that he couldn't open. Until 9 years ago, I had been invited for this workshop in Denmark called Anidocs, where they invite animators and documentary filmmakers to develop ideas for animated documentaries. And they asked me if I had an idea. And I thought that this might be a good way to share his story, to tell his story. And we met up and I asked him, and he had a growing urge to share his story because he felt this disconnect in his life, that he couldn't make his past and present connect. And he felt a need to share his story. And he was really intrigued by the fact that he could be anonymous behind the animation, because what you see in the film, what you hear in the film, is his real voice telling his story for the very first time. And it's not easy for him to talk about. It's his life traumas. And he couldn't be public about these things. He didn't want to be in the public eye because he can't small talk about this. You know, he wouldn't. You know, he didn't want to be able to go to work and then meet people who would then want to talk about his traumas, or meet people in the supermarket. So the fact that he could be anonymous was what enabled him to start sharing his story, and what was enabled him to start opening up about his past and connecting his past and present.
And so making an animated documentary film was groundbreaking for us. We've never worked with animation before, come from documentary. And it was a really exciting and a heartfelt project that to meet and couple up with this animation company and try and develop something that we'd not done before. They didn't understand the language of documentary. We didn't understand the language of animation. And for some reason, this is like, we kind of joke about it as a bumblebee that we try to make fly. And that's why we're so proud to be here today. We are nominated in 3 categories. But being in the doc branch, we belong here, and we are so proud to stand next to these 4 other incredible, strong films that all have such an important message in their heart. And I think this is where we belong, and we're very proud to be among these films with strong messages that we want to share and to make a better world for people around us.
Thanks. I think Flea is very much a story about collaboration, both, like Monica said, between the world of animation and documentary, but also it's in many ways a typical story about European co-production. What makes it possible for us in a small country like Denmark to make a film like this, which we have to say is a very expensive documentary film, but a very cheap animation film. Is that we are so lucky that we have public service television stations in Europe, like Attica, for example, in France and Germany, and that we have public funding through film institutes like the Danish Film Institute, the Norwegian Film Institute, the Swedish Film Institute, that we can access through co-producers. And on this project, we have had fantastic co-producers. In Denmark, we have, besides Final Cut for Real, where we come from, we have had Sun Creatures, the animation company, and then in France, we have had Bimemong Lundi, and in Norway and Sweden, Merfilm and Mostfilm. And without this whole sort of big collaboration around a project like this, it wouldn't have been possible. So we really want to thank all these collaborators. And then I should also say that one thing is making the film. That's hard enough, as you all in this room, you all know. But bringing it out to the audience is also a huge part of making a film like this. And for that, we are extremely grateful to Neon in the US and to Participant, who have helped us bring it, and to WISE, who have helped us bring it out to the audiences here, and also to all the other distributors around the world who have embraced the film and made it a public conversation about the refugee experience, and not just that people are refugees, but that being a refugee is something that you may experience, but you are also a lot of other stuff around it, like you see with Amin and his life as an academic, as a cat lover, as Jonas likes to say, and that story comes out to all these audience who right now in this world are that we hope that they will also embrace all the refugees that are still coming out of Afghanistan, Syria, Ukraine, and places that are experiencing war like that. Thank you.
And just to introduce the clip, well, first of all, it's called Flee, and it is about a physical flight going from Afghanistan to Denmark, and it is a refugee story. But it's really a story about home and belonging and connectivity. It's about Amin, who is a refugee and also gay, and who for all of his life has had to hide parts of himself. When he was a kid in Afghanistan, he couldn't be openly gay. When he arrived in Denmark, he couldn't be honest to his past. So all of his life, he's had to hide. So this film is about a man looking for a place in the world where he feels he can be who he is, with everything that entails. And the clip you're going to see now is from our very first conversations when he started to open this black box. It was in my home in Copenhagen 9 years ago. Yeah, thank you.
Prøv en lille smule længere op. Meget lidt. Ja, lidt ned igen. Sådan der. Perfekt. Sådan der. Jeg skal også lige gøre sådan her. Så hvis du ligesom lukker øjnene nu, ja, og prøver at trække vejret sådan dybt ind lidt, og bare slappe helt af.
Har du nogensinde fortalt din livshistorie før?
Nej.
Men du er okay med at fortælle den til mig nu?
Ja.
Så tænker jeg på, om du kan ikke fortælle mig noget nu, men bare prøv at tænke tilbage på sådan dit tidligste minde. Altså, hvad er det tidligste, du sådan kan huske?
Jeg er altid 3-4 år gammel.
Hvor er du henne?
Vi er i Afghanistan, i Kabul.
Beskrive dig selv.
Jeg tror, jeg har altid haft hang til at være lidt anderledes. Hvis jeg siger sådan. Jeg var ikke bange for at gå i min søsters kjoler. Den yngste søsters natkjole. Jeg kunne godt lide opmærksomhed.
Og hvor er du henne i Kabul?
I det hus, hvor jeg blev født.
Saif, mother Sadoko.
Hvor er dine forældre henne?
Altså min mor, hun er inde i huset. Det er, altså, det ved jeg bare.
این قندولک اینا رو جور میشه.
Om aftenen, jeg lægger mit hoved i hendes skød, hun ærer mit hår, så ingen andre kan gøre det ligesom hende. Altså, når jeg siger på min mor, så tænker jeg, jeg gad godt opleve hende ung. Jeg har set nogle billeder af hende, hvor hun har helt sort hår. Men jeg husker hende kun med gråt hår.
اگه میخوای برو یک ساعت بازی کو تا یک ساعت نانم جور میشه.
او دست مرا گرفت و ما رفتیم طرف جایی که طیاره میشینه و او مرا در کابین پیلوت بالا کرد. جرنگ های عادی نداشت، مثل جایستیک و همه جای دکمه داشت.
Min søster fortæller historier om min far.
و ما پرواز کردیم و اونا به ما گفتن این بسیار مهم است که هیچ کدام دکمه را غلط نزنی. اگر یک دکمه را غلط بزنی گرم میشه. و ما تا بین ابرها پرواز کردیم و می تونستیم آخر دنیا رو ببینیم. بسیار جالب بود.
Meget af det passer.
خانه‌ها مثل خانه‌های
Noget af det også er noget, hun digter op. Og min bror og jeg er helt fuldstændig forgabt i de ting, hun fortæller.
پدر مرا آرام کرد. اونا با ما گفتن که تا ما هستم هیچ چیزی نمیشه.
Altså, jeg kan godt huske den der følelse af misundelse.
Hvorfor er du misundelig?
Men det er fordi, hun fortæller om noget, der er virkelig godt, noget som hverken min bror og jeg har oplevet, og være sammen med vores far. Og
Men hvor er din far?
Kan vi lige holde en pause?
Ja, selvfølgelig.
Please welcome two of the nominees for Summer of Soul, or When the Revolution Could Not Be Televised, Robert Fivolent and David Dinnerstein.
Well, thank you, guys. First, I want to say just, what an honor it is to be nominated with these films, and it's just been an incredible experience. We also wanted to say that Questlove couldn't be here tonight. Our third producer, Joseph Patel, also couldn't be here, but part of the sort of joy of the experience of working on this film was seeing Questlove emerge as an important new voice in the documentary film world, and we're happy to have been a part of that. I started on this film 15 years ago. I flew to Bronxville, New York, and convinced Hal Tolchin, who had shot the original footage, that he should let me make a documentary. And I convinced him we'd build the right team, and we did. And for 15 years, I kept reminding him, or convincing him, we'll get this done. And there were many times, or several times over that period of time, that the film almost got made, and we just couldn't get it over the finish line. And I tell people all the time, thank God it didn't happen at any of those other times, because this was the right team and the right way to tell this story. And it's the right time in the country for this story, I think. And I think people needed the joy of and the celebration of this movie coming out of the pandemic. And so from that perspective, you know, I'm happy that this is the version of the movie that got made. I'll let David tell you a little bit about the clip that we're going to see.
Sure. Before we do that, I just wanted to sort of thank the Academy. It's really such a privilege to be in this beautiful space, to watch all of these clips on this amazing screen with this great sound. It's such an honor. And I also wanted to acknowledge two of our EPs that are in the house tonight, and they just provided just unbelievable support, and that's Marie Therese Girgis and Janet Gargi. So thank you guys. Stand, please, acknowledge yourselves. I also, you know, just wanted to acknowledge, and I'll do this for Robert too, I wanted to acknowledge my wife, Allison, who, you know, has been watching me, and
my wife, Brittany,
right,
is here also.
And they've been watching us. You know, I've been on this film for roughly 6 years with Robert, and they've been watching us just, you know, continue to push the rock up the hill. And I just wanted to say the patience they have to be able to listen to this wonderful soundtrack to Summer of Soul on a constant loop for the past 6 years is really, your patience is amazing. Yeah. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, this movie started out as a dream that Hal Tulchin and Tony Lawrence had. They wanted to really throw this epic event to heal a community that is often maligned. And it was, you know, an event that took place within the same, you know, month that this iconic event 100 miles away took place as well. The difference was the Harlem Cultural Festival was largely forgotten by most. And it has really taken sort of this effort, you know, to be able to sort of take this erased piece of history and try and do our best to reclaim it, to bring it to a community, to honor them. And the clip you're going to see tonight is really something that Questlove was very, very much attuned to. As a drummer, he always felt that he wanted to start a clip with a 19-year-old Stevie Wonder, who, you know, very few people knew was, you know, a badass on the drums. And it was sort of a cold open to a film, and you could just see the audience and sort of, you know, the attention they were giving this young 19-year-old at the time that was about to emerge into the Stevie that we know today. The Harlem Cultural Festival took place over 6 Sundays in 1969. Hal Tulchin had the ability to hire, you know, a crew. He used 4 cameras to document the performances. We were able to work with 40 hours of archival performance footage, but I also wanted to acknowledge our archivist, Lizzie McGlynn, who went, you know, so far beyond, you know, what any archivist has the ability to do. She dug deep and, you know, worked with our editor, Josh Pearson, to put together scenes in this movie that you may not see tonight, but hopefully you'll be able to either watch this film or you have watched it. But pivotal scenes like the moon landing, the death of Dr. King, you know, and so many other amazing scenes. And she scoured the archives in New York, in Los Angeles, all through the world to find footage that would help contextualize the story Questlove and our team wanted to tell. So the clip you'll see tonight is really the beginning of the film, and it will sort of introduce you and hopefully, you know, get to what this festival is ultimately about. It's part a musical performances, it's part a historical document, but most of all, it is really, you know, an event that a celebrated Black pride culture and a unity. Without further ado, here is Summer of Soul. Thank you.
Please welcome the nominees for Writing with Fire, Rintu Thomas and Sushmit Ghosh.
Wow, what a joy and honor to be here. Ever since the nomination was announced, which is, I think, a whole month back, I've been asked many times by people differently, how are you feeling? And as Stanley and I were talking right before here, it's hard to be excited all the time. I think I've gone through excitement, joy, overwhelmingness, but a lot of gratitude. And it also made me wonder, it's such a big honor. It's something monumental that has happened in the 35th year of my life. And I just found a moment to think, what does this really mean? What is really my story? Where do I come from? What does this mean? And I was able to trace it back to my grandfather, who I used to spend 2 months with during our summer holidays in a small village in the southern part of India. He was a farmer, not educated, and a man of few words, which I begrudged him for, because I expected a grandfather to be more showing love, and I'm a very showy person, so it didn't happen. But every morning he'd promptly wake up at 5 and go to cut rubber off the rubber plantation, to go to his paddy fields, and it was clockwork, and come back, and my grandmother would be there managing the house. They didn't have a lot of money, but they had enough. But they were very particular that they wanted all their children to get educated. My father was educated. My mother came from a family of 9 children. She was the first one to go to an English medium school. So when they got married and came to a city, they were able to foreground education for me and my sister. And that was really the foundation of our life, and for things that came to be and allowed me to dream, find my place in the world, be awkward, be confidently awkward, I think, and really find who I am through different phases of my life. There have been failures, there have been successes, and then I met somebody who had a very similar history. We met at film school. Sushmit's family, again, grandparents were refugees who came to India with practically nothing but a lot of trauma during the partition of the country, and build their lives little by little. And I think this kind of history, this kind of story is what built both of us. And when we had a common love for documentaries or cinema or storytelling, I think that is what really bound us together, was looking for stories, meeting people, and really wanting to understand where do you come from? Where do you want to go? What dreams do you have? What defines you? And those have been really the protagonists of our films. People with dreams, people who had sacrifices, but people who have something to give back, a sense of hope, of building a better life for themselves and others. When we met the women who inhabit the universe of Writing with Fire, we found the incredible story of India's only newspaper that's run entirely by rural marginalized women. But who we really interested were in women who have practically nothing going for them except for hope and a dream of a better future. And I feel that I am in love with cinema because it is when all our experiences merge. We all are our own stories, and I absolutely love how we leave a part of ourselves in a film so that somebody else can find a part of themselves in the stories we tell.
I'll try and keep it short. So when Jessica actually downstairs before we came up said, "Oh, so you have your speech ready?" My head went, "What?" But I, of course, said, "Yeah, I just found out," which was then not untrue. And I walked up to Rintu and I was like, "We have to give a speech." And she froze because Rintu loves planning. She went into her phone and then was like, "Oh my God." And I said, "Well, we'll swing it and let's see what happens." And that essentially has been in many ways the story of our lives. In 2015, so we met in film school in 2006, and when we made our degree film back in film school, we had a blast doing it together. It was a film about a photographer and artist who used the nude form of his body to challenge stereotypes around being HIV positive or gay. And at that point in time, it was a film that, well, was very challenging to make, but when it went out into India, it essentially created a stir and opened up many conversations. And we realized we could have a blast working together. And so a year after that, in 2009, we started our film company. And the idea was, how do you transform the genre of documentaries back home in India? At that point in time, it used to be very didactic, academic, boring, propaganda. And we built our careers on the short form. I think the legacy of the short doc is something that is vital to nonfiction storytelling. And in 2015, we decided to get married. We're an interfaith couple. And so I remember we were in Bombay behind the Taj Mahal Hotel, which is an iconic sort of, we couldn't afford to go in, but we were outside. It was a rainy night, and ironically, there was no one on the streets, which is an impossibility for a city like Bombay. And there's tungsten-lit streets. And we were walking, and I just proposed to her. And then she looked at me in absolute Rintu style going, "But how are we going to do this?" And I remember having nothing to say to her but saying, "We'll swing it." And then very soon after that, we discovered the story of Khabar Lahariya. And this has been a journey that has been a difficult one because back home, we don't have any systems of support for documentary filmmakers. So for us to be standing here is historic. And in a sense, we carry the weights and hopes and dreams of not only filmmakers from India, but from our part of the world. And I think this speaks to also the doc branch and the opening up of the branch, and essentially what it has been able to champion, small stories like ours from a very different part of the world, but a film that is infused with the power of hope. Incidentally, when I'm looking back now at the benchmark Writing with Fire, our row is essentially women who have championed us. And on the ground while filming for 4 years, Karan, who is a co-cinematographer, and me were always surrounded by women. And that's essentially the power of Writing with Fire. If you put women in positions of leadership, half the world's problems will immediately disappear. And I think I have no clue what this clip is going to be about. We're clearly behind on our mails, but I hope that you will encounter the power of the modern Indian woman and what she has set out to do. Thank you.
हमारे प्रदेश में पत्रकार होने का मतलब था कि आप हैं उच्च जाति के पुरुष। दलित औरतों का पत्रकार के रूप में कोई सोच भी नहीं सकता। 14 साल में हमने इस मानसिकता को काफी हद तक बदला है। खबर लहरिया का प्रिंट से डिजिटल न्यूज चैनल बनने में कई तरह के रिस्क हैं। पर हमें तो सक्सेस होना ही है। मैं समझती हूँ कि हमारे सक्सेस से लोग समझ पाएंगे कि दलित औरतों के हाथ में अगर पावर हो तो वो क्या कर सकती हैं, और मैं ये अपनी खुद की चुनौती मानती हूँ।
वाह, मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा। ऑन और आपके लिए बड़ी पहले एक बटन है जहाँ पर हम क्लिक करेंगे तो ऑफ होगा, और जब ये ऑफ होगा और क्लिक करेंगे तो ऑन हो जाएगा। ठीक है, अब इसके बाद हमको अपने कैमरे को ऐसे करना है। कभी भी आप ऐसे नहीं करिए, तो हमें हमेशा आदत होती है ऐसे देखने की, तो इसलिए हम अपने कैमरे को ऐसे ही यूज करेंगे। मुझे लगता है अभी आगे नहीं बढ़ो, मैं बता रही हूँ सब लोग, कुछ लोगों को आसानी से समझ में आ जाएगा, कुछ लोगों को थोड़ी समझने में होगी। वहाँ पर हम चल के पहले माहौल को देखेंगे कि वहाँ माहौल किस तरह से, थोड़ी कोशिश करेंगे जो लोग हैं जिनके परिवार के लोग से बातचीत करेंगे। खासकर हम राजू से ज़रूर बात करेंगे कि उसकी सबसे ज़्यादा, और वो थोड़ी बोल भी पाता है।
ये जो पत्थर की सुराखें आपको दिख रही है ना पहाड़ में, ये सारी सुराखें उसी पत्थर का निकाला हुआ है। लोग बीच बीच निकालते हैं, ऊपर से काटते नहीं है, इसलिए वो धंस जाता है। फिर जब कोई पत्थर वो हो गया तो फिर वो धंसने लगता है। बस
अच्छा होगा जितना आप खुल के बता सकें उतना ही अच्छा होगा।
तो ये 2 साल कुछ महीने से बंद थी, तो अभी चला रहे थे लोग। तो ये हादसा जो हुआ है ब्लास्टिंग के द्वारा, तो जो अन्य लोग थी वो दब गई थी। तो मेरा भाई वहाँ पे गया, तो उसने कहा क्यों भाई तुमने सब आदमी मार दिए। तो इन दमंग लोगों ने क्या किया, उसको पत्थर मारकर हत्या कर दी। और ये जो पहाड़ है अबे चल रहा है, किसी समय हमारा गांव पूरा ही बैठ जाएगा।
भागीरथ आपके कौन है? जेठ।
अब जो धमकी देते हैं कि आप राजीनामा नहीं करेंगे तो आपका आदमियों को डर है, बच्चन में डर है, हम कहीं दावा डालेंगे, कहीं जो करेंगे, कहीं वो करेंगे।
ओहो, कौन कह रहा है ये?
अब जो लोग कह रहा है जिसके बंद है, खदान वाली कह रहा है, सब लोग जोड़ के। आज तो हम अपना भी नहीं देख रहा है कि अभी आपसे बात कर रहे हैं कि रात में हमारा क्या होना है, कि हमारे बच्चों को क्या होना है, कि हमारे जेठ दीदियन को क्या होना है, क्या जानते हैं हम भी, तो ऊपर वाला जानता है सब। जो सोच रहे हैं हम नहीं सोच रहे।
Wow. I always love this evening because it's so inspiring, and it's really a testament to the power of documentary film. It's a testament to the art of documentary film. It's a testament to the humanity of documentary film. And I want to end the evening by quoting a good friend of mine, the late, great Desmond Tutu, who passed away this year. And Desmond says, my humanity is bound up in yours. We can only be human together. These films, these 10 films, are a testament to our humanity. And I want to congratulate all the filmmakers for this incredible work they've done. Thank you all for coming. And can all the filmmakers, the nominees, join us on stage for a class photo? Thanks.
Makes me want to see them all again on the screen.
I know, it's so great.
Thank you for coming to Oscar Week Documentaries. Please look out for an email with a survey. We would love to hear from you, and your responses help us obtain grants which fund programs like Oscar Week.
There was a guy at Arts film class. He did the whole thing vertically. So we had to turn. Oh, it was hilarious. Yes, I always remember that. How he shot the whole thing vertically.